Hey guys, this is going to be another unscripted thought experiment or thought project kind of videos where I just want to talk about something that's been on my mind for a little while. And this isn't necessarily a unique topic in the sense that it hasn't been covered before, but I've had some thoughts on this recently that I just wanted to share. And that is basically the sort of paradox of the most important thing I think that men can come to realize today, or at least it can be a very distressing thing, but it also can be extremely liberating. Maybe it's not the most important thing for men to realize, but it's toward the top of the list. And that is that in this society, whether you're in the United States or Canada or any other Western country, and probably some non Western countries as well, the reality is that as an individual man, no one cares about you. Or, as in my case, if you're lucky, if you're fortunate, you have a core group of people in your life that care about you. Maybe it's just one person, maybe it's two, three, or four people, but that's going to be pretty much the limit, right? You're not going to have more than a handful of people, if anyone at all, that cares about you in life if you're a man. And that's a really bitter pill. That could be certainly one of the ways that the red pill is defined, right? Is making that realization that it's not really about just relationships with women. It's about how you are viewed overall in society. No one cares about you. And if you're lucky, you might have a few people in your family or some very close friends. Probably not a relationship partner, but I mean, it's conceivable that you could have a relationship partner that cares about you, but we know how things kind of stand between men and women today and female nature. Probably not, right? But a lot of guys don't have anyone that cares about them at all. And if you have even a handful of people, you're lucky. That is very distressing because you're taught all this stuff when you're growing up, at least if you're like me, that, everyone has value and everyone should have this self-esteem. You're taught it's kind of more of a feminine type of education system, but guys go through this too, where you're taught that, at least in my generation, growing up in the 90s and the early 2000s, of, everybody's valuable, everybody's special, all this sort of stuff that's, it's gotten more that way over time in terms of what we're taught, but we're taught that we have intrinsic value. But then we get out in the real world in some form or fashion, and at least the men that are smart enough to come to this awareness, or they go through the right experiences, or, maybe those two things combined, they realize, you know what? No one gives a shit about you if you're a guy in society. If you're a woman, you're always going to have guys that will do things for you if you get in a bad situation, right? Even a worst case scenario is you have to sleep with a man that can help, pay your bills or whatever. I'm not saying life is all lovely and is all roses for women all the time, but women have those options, right? Guys don't. A lot of guys have no one whatsoever that cares about them. And the thing is, you form friendships. Most men form friendships with a lot of different people, right? They form connections, whether they're work-related connections or, education-related, or just in terms of doing what you do, right? You think that the people that you hang out with care about you, and then you find out when the chips are down, when things are not going well for you, that, and I don't want to get too personal here, but you find out that no, most people, nearly everyone around you that pretends to care about you doesn't give a crap about you if you're a guy. And the thing about it is, that's, like I say, it's very distressing because we're not taught this, right? And this is one of the things that can definitely lead to what Sandman and others have called the red pill rage stage of, realizing that you've been lied to about relationships, about, life, but especially in this case, in this context, you've been lied to about family and friends and your relationship partner caring about you when really you're a means to an end for most people. If you don't bring value into someone else's life as a guy, you aren't anything to them. If you have brought value into their lives, and you can no longer do that, or you're no longer willing to represent whatever it is that you did for them in the past, you don't matter to them anymore, right? And it's really for the guys that can bear to admit this to themselves, it's really a distressing and sometimes painful thing to come to grips with, because you're not taught this when you're a child from the beginning. You have to realize this later on, that society will kick you to the curb if you essentially don't fit into, doing something for other people. Then you are of no value to nearly everyone around you. Aside from, like I say, if you're lucky, a handful of people, or maybe even one person that loves you, but you may not even have that. A lot of guys don't, right? And it's very distressing to take that red pill, so to speak, but at the same time, once that's fully digested, you can use that, guys. And I've discovered that within myself, because you realize, and I've talked about this before, like I say, this isn't necessarily a brand new topic for myself, and this has been talked about within the men's community, but once you get to that point where you realize, you know what, society doesn't care about me, my value is almost nothing as a person, I'm just a means to an end, so I really have no reason to care about what society wants from me, right? Unless I'm using that to get something for myself, or for the few people that do care about me, the things that are important to me in life, the things that have value to me. Aside from those particular things, I don't owe society anything. Society doesn't have my back. It's not going to help me if I'm struggling with something. It's not going to help me if I lose a job or if I lose my health. Society doesn't give a damn about you as a man. It'll cast you aside. And because of that, that's harsh, right? Like I say, that's a distressing red pill to swallow. But if you fully digest that knowledge, you get to a point, like I say, I feel like I've kind of gotten to this point more recently, guys, where I just realize I don't need to prove anything to anybody anymore. I really don't. All I need to do is watch out for myself, the people that I care about, that are worth caring about, and basically whatever my goals are and whatever it is that I believe in, right? My belief system. I do things that are based on, what I believe is right. So it's not a matter, again, of, well, I'm just going to exploit other people now because they don't care about me. No, in my view, it's important to have a system that allows you to not become like that in the sense of hurting other people, because that doesn't make you a better person. But what you can do, and what is absolutely healthy to do, is liberate yourself from any idea that you have an obligation to society. There is no obligation when that society doesn't have your back in the most basic of ways. There is no obligation when most people are just trying to exploit you, right? And Hammerhand and others have correctly observed that, we just have a culture of usury today, especially a usury of men. And this isn't really a brand new thing, right? Men have always been valued for what they do for others, but it used to be, and you could argue to what extent, that at least you were rewarded for it. If you were a good provider, you had a family and you were the head of the household, or you were lauded for helping in some sort of military victory or achievement, right? You were considered a good man. If you had produced well for others for a long period of time, those people would help take care of you if you got sick, because their moral values, at least some people, had the value of helping others that had done kindness to you in the past. But nowadays, most people don't have any system like that, and very few people care about you, if anybody. When you go out in the world today, and I'm sure this isn't really me sharing something that is super illuminating necessarily, but a lot of guys who already realize this, if you go out in the world today, you are on your own, right? You're taking sort of a dive into a pool of sharks, pretty much. And that's kind of a silly analogy in a way, but, if you don't watch yourself, you will get eaten up by people that just want to take advantage of you. Society will not help you in any way, shape, or form beyond what you can basically provide in return, right? In other words, as a trade or something. So essentially, guys, unless you offer something, society is going to treat you like crap. And that doesn't mean that just because you can offer something now that you're going to receive better treatment later. That's not the way it works in our culture now. That's not the way it works in the society that we have. And there are millions of examples of this, literally, from men sharing their stories. And so I've just been considering that more, guys, is that it's distressing to take that red pill and to realize that society is not going to have your back, to realize you don't mean crap to hardly anybody, right? Except maybe if you're lucky, a few people. And if you're unlucky, no one whatsoever. If you're a guy today, that's what you're facing. But it sets you up and liberates you to create your own set of goals, to create your own way of going about life that has value to you, because there is no one to try to work with anymore, right? Aside from maybe those few loved ones, if you're lucky, there is no one to have any sort of real obligation or duty toward. There is no one to, consider. It's like, well, I want to do this, but I need to think about my overall position in society. Who cares? Society hates you. Society doesn't give a crap about you if you're the average guy or even a non-average guy today, really. Society only cares what it can get from you. The vast, vast majority of people around you do not care about your well-being. So that sucks on one hand, but it also, in my view, allows you to move on from that. It allows you to say, well, society doesn't care about me, so I'm going to set my own goals. I'm going to do things on my own terms. I'm going to look out for myself. I don't need to worry about the program that I was given that I was supposed to follow because it's all bullshit. And that is really a powerful tool that you can kind of create for yourself through this process of realizing that most people don't care about you, so why do you care what they want? What they want isn't going to be good for you in a lot of cases anyway. It's not going to help you. It's not going to be beneficial to your life or well-being. Aside from those few people that have shown you that they're actually going to be with you through thick and thin in some form, who cares what other people think? They're not going to try to help save the ship if it's sinking that you're on, right? They don't care. So that doesn't mean, again, that that's an excuse to just go after other people, but it allows you to strip everything down to the foundation, if you can, and figure out what values work for you, what it is that you believe in that's important, what people or things that you do find to be of value, and then everything else can just screw off, right? And there's a lot of power involved in being able to do that, in my opinion. And I don't want to get too rambly with this video, but I want to know what kind of feedback you guys have for that. What I'm saying is, like I say, it's not brand new by any means, but I've really just gotten to a point where I fully recognize I've digested this red pill. Maybe I'm still in the process of adjusting to this and fully implementing those ideas, and maybe, I'm still a long ways from that. I don't know. But that's become more and more something, that I think about, that's on my mind, is that society hates me anyway. Right? Society doesn't think that I'm shit regardless of what I do or don't do, unless I'm giving people, whether it's women or society as a whole, unless I'm being productive for those people, they don't care. So my focus isn't on that, right? I really have gotten to a point where I've just hit that reset button in terms of that thinking, and I realize that only the people and the things that deserve to be a part of my life, or that deserve to be important to me or valuable to me in some way, those are the only things I care about. Society doesn't have my back. Society doesn't care what happens to me one way or the other, so it's not important, right? What's important are the people and the things that matter, and what values and goals and overall structure I can provide for my own life. And I think every man pretty much should do this, or any man that's capable and interested of doing that, should do this, because society doesn't care about you when the chips are down. And that's distressing, but it also liberates you to build your life around other things, to not care about what society thinks because it's totally irrelevant anymore, right? You factor in things like the law so that you don't get thrown in jail and stuff like that, but aside from the consequences for you, You don't need to care about what society thinks about you anymore. Focus on your own beliefs, focus on your own value, focus on what you think is important, regardless of what that is, whether it's being an individual in the sense of just not having any connections with people at all, if you really truly don't have anybody with you, or in terms of, like I say, having anybody that loves you, or whether it's a religious thing or whether it's not a religion. It doesn't matter. You focus on what gives you peace, focus on what gives you meaning, because our society, it doesn't care about you one way or the other. It truly doesn't. Right? There's no such thing as being a good man in our society anymore. All that means is that you're being exploited for something now. That's the only meaning that's left behind that these days. And so I want to cut this off, like I say, without making this too much of a ramble, but that's something that has been on my mind quite a bit, is that if society doesn't care about you, then it's okay to hit that reset button. And honestly, given how things are and given how society sees men today, there's no reason for us to give a crap about anything that's going on in greater society beyond ourselves, our own values and goals, and the people and the things that are important to us.